Connect and Conquer, building internal partnerships to strengthen. That is not supposed to say non-credit programs. That's supposed to say IBT programs. I apologize. Starting question, thought, just to kind of get started with this. Have you ever realized that another department that you're working that's in your area is doing something very similar to your program, but you only found out about it by accident? You know, those things come up. They happen. You're like, wait, if you're doing this and I'm doing this, shouldn't we be doing this together? It would make sense for a variety of reasons. So those are some of what we're going to talk about today is that internal, how are you, do you have strong internal partnerships? Do you have anybody you're missing? What does that look like? So hopefully these situations are less common. Pieces we're going to talk about, like I said, who are your internal partners already? Why do internal partners matter? How do you initiate and grow these relationships? Maybe you've got somebody that you're looking to expand with or looking to add as a partner, but you're not sure how to go about that. Tools and communication strategies, and then we're going to look at some case examples and practical takeaways. So internal partners, we're jumping right into the engagement piece. In the chat, hopefully Brittany is going to put this link with the code, or you can use your camera and go to the QR code. This is going to take you to a Menti link that has a question. So who are your current internal partners? IT department and the ELL department. Our division includes our workforce development program, dual credit department chairs, deans, recruiters, advising, financial aid, college recruitment, adult day services, educational transitional services, residential services there. Geez. Yep. Good. And again, I know with IBT, so full disclosure, I used this presentation with the non-credit grants, which is why I had non-credit programs on that initial title slide. So they were all colleges, but I know in IBT, we have regional offices of education, we have some high school districts, we have CBOs, we have colleges. So all of you are going to look a little different on who all you've got as your internal partners. Okay, CCCE. I am not familiar with that acronym. And so what am I missing? What is CCCE? That is our Career and Community Education Department. Okay, cool. Thank you. See, now I've learned something. So now we're all good. All right. So if we go back to the slide deck, nope, which means I have to hit all the right buttons in the right order. So we got that. So did you include, and some of these we have included, academic departments. I'm trying to move the chat box so I can see screens. Adult education, advising and student services, career and tech ed, employment services. Some of you, again, at a CBO may have employment or job work sections in your organization that you can work with. I didn't see any of those directly listed. Financial aid was listed. Institutional research and data teams. This is often one of those pieces that often gets forgotten because it's not a student piece, but the data piece is very important to have. So are you working with some of those on those pieces? Marketing and communications, workforce development, some of you mentioned that. Workforce empowerment initiative, if you have a WEI grant, that may be somebody that you could partner with as well. All right, have you considered these options? So like I said, that other screen is most of these are student related, student connected, maybe recruitment, programming type of pieces. However, these are other pieces that maybe could be explored further. Accessibility services, ensuring equity in access and participation. So I know with the IBT grant, some of you are doing student support or you're doing adult ed. And so maybe you want to make sure that you're working with your access division, in whatever form that takes and whatever that looks like. Foundation and scholar and advancement offices. Those could be donor support, so that could be financial. So they could provide scholarships, or they may provide money that you could do scholarships. There's some funding either for the program or for students included in that. But then also internal staff. Are you upskilling staff through appropriate training? So maybe you've hired students in to do, as part of your IBT grant, to do some work. Maybe it's tutoring. Maybe it is, I'm trying to think of some of the different programs that we've had with IBT and what they've had students do, like a peer mentor type of thing. And so, but maybe they need some training in something. And so you can work with your internal staff to get them some of the training that they need, but that internal staff is really the students that you're using. So it's this cycle. It's not all separated out nice and neat, which is often what we hear from our programs, is there's a lot of mixture within programs and organizations. So why do these internal partners matter? First, students. And that's really why we do what we do, is to benefit the students. It gives them a clearer pathway, which reduces attrition. So the next one, a recognizable face. Sorry, Matt, your name's listed first, so I'm going to pick on you for a second. If Brittany's in class and Matt comes in and says, hey, I'm over here in advising and you're welcome to walk in and have a conversation with me, Brittany's like, oh, I know him. She's not going to be scared and go, I don't know who I'm going to get. I don't know if they're going to understand me. I don't know if they're going to know what I need. But Matt's been in class. He talked to us. He gave us information. He made sense. It was logical. I could follow his train of thought. I want to go see Matt. So the recognizable faces, it helps students understand what the pathway is. Some of us that have been through years of education know, or believe we know, what the education pathway looks like, but then it changes. And so having someone walk us through what those options are is helpful. But it also gives access to holistic support services, which is a big part of IBT. So you can do advising and tutoring and financial aid. They're all internal, so you don't have to pay for them to come speak to your class. But maybe they're in your class talking about, here are some next steps. Here are some things that you could do. Here are some options. Whether it's a scholarship application, or whether it's filling out the lovely FAFSA form to get enrolled in college as the next step in the next semester, or advising, what is your next step? What is the next best step for you? Excuse me. Is it taking classes? Is it going to work? Is it doing both? What does that look like? So internal partners can be super important for students, but they also can be very beneficial to programs. Shared resources. So maybe you have a computer lab or a learning lab or a science lab, classroom space that you can share. Maybe you share instructors and you go, you know what, you're really good at remedial reading. Maybe you'd be really good at helping with this reading tutoring that we've got going on. So you can share resources and instructors and staff. Marketing channels. One of the things that, for example, that I oversee and as part of IBT is in Objective 1, ICAPS, working with adult ed programs. One thing that we've talked about with a lot of programs this year is, for example, this last week, I approved an ICAPS program in CDL where they're working with it's a community college, and they're working with a truck driver training program. And so my suggestion to them was also reach out to the CDL program. And if students walk in their door, but they're missing a high school diploma, or they're low skilled, really low skilled in adult ed, you can still serve them. So the adult ed program is not doing 100% of the marketing and recruitment. The CDL program can help because they probably have students in those scenarios coming in their doors. So sharing those resources, sharing that marketing, sharing that information just makes it all go a little farther. We talked a little bit about data, make it more efficient data collection and reporting. So maybe with the CDL program, they say, well, we've got 20 students and 10 of them passed. Well, now working with adult ed, they can say we have 20 students and 15 of them passed. But you can share that information and report it, and both programs get the gold star because adult ed worked with CDL, they helped, CDL helped, and it all came together and everyone gets the gold star because, again, the students matter and they got their completion, they got their certificate, they got their CDL license, now they're employed, now they have a job. Collaborative grants and braided funding, figuring out how can you work together to write grants, to braid funding, to make things go a little better on the financial side. So you don't have to double count everything. But then there's also benefits to the larger picture at the institution or the organization that you have. You have stronger alignment with the mission and the strategic plan. A lot of community colleges have both mission and a strategic plan. A lot of CBOs have a mission, maybe an unwritten strategic plan. But everybody working together to reach those goals just makes the organization stronger. It also increases enrollment and retention and completion metrics. If, again, I'm going to pick on somebody else, Patricia and Anthony are sitting in offices next to each other, but running different programs, but Patricia can send her students that qualify for Anthony's program over there. And Anthony goes, you know what? I think you could really benefit from some of Patricia's help, and you can cross-use them. Then it just increases both sets of enrollment. The student is more successful, so they stay, they're retained, and they're more likely to finish, so you get completion metrics on both sides. So again, working together can be very beneficial. And there's a unified institutional voice in workforce and community engagement. Because then Patricia and Anthony get to go hand in hand to talk to an employer and go, you have staff that need these skills. Well, when they come to us, not only are we doing Anthony's work in the education piece, we're also able to utilize Patricia in the support services piece with transportation or childcare help. So we can cover all of these pieces at our one location instead of trying to piecemeal everything out. So internal partnerships, and none of this is rocket science, but these are all often pieces that we forget about because we get busy in our own tunnels, in our own silos, in our own place. This is what I have to do for the IBT grant. This is what I need to get done. This is how I have to do it. And sometimes we forget to look around the corner and go, you know what, they could be a great partner. They could be super beneficial. Questions so far? All right. Again, I'm going to keep moving, but you can put them in the chat. You can come off mute. I'm good with that. So starting the conversation. So you looked around the corner and you went, ooh, there's somebody over there I want to have a conversation with. How do you do that? What is that even? What is that? What is that? You're like, yeah, but they work over there in their thing and I'm on my path and they're on their path. And how do we get these to come together? The first thing, these are all really short, but they're really pretty simple. You have to listen first. So again, I'm going to pick on Anthony and Patricia some more. Anthony goes, hey, Patricia, could we partner with this? If Anthony goes in making his sales pitch to Patricia about the great things he can do, that's great, but he doesn't necessarily know what Patricia has and what Patricia can do or what Patricia's looking for. So he's going to need to listen first and go, I think we could do some great partnerships. What is it that you do? What do you feel like you're missing? What could you use some help with? How could we partner together? And then it's about helping the other side. So listen first. Sometimes that's really hard for some of us in education to do. I'm one of those people, but sometimes you just have to close your mouth and open your ears. You just listen. I've heard the comment, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use the multiple pieces first. Listen. Find the shared goals. So maybe Tricia works on this piece and Anthony works on this piece and they just can't go together, but they both do these pieces. So that's where you can work together and share partnership. And again, some of these partnerships are going to be very small pieces that you're able to do. Some of them can be huge. It just depends on what you're able to do, what your organization allows, what personalities allow, what students need, all of those pieces. Use existing structures. So whether it's an advisory board or it's a cross-department task force, committee group, faculty councils, what's already out there that you can utilize that's already kind of in place to help this partnership work? And then ask them for a specific activity or a specific event. So don't just say, oh yeah, we can work together in the future, Patricia. Because we've all been on those emails or phone calls or conversations in the hallway. We're like, oh yeah, we'll work together in the future. Do either of you ever reach out to the other person again? Maybe. Probably not. Where if Anthony says, you know what, I could really use your help with this IBT grant. I've got this one student that I can't figure this piece out. You got that one piece that you're working on. It's focused, it's specific, and you're going with that one piece. And when you hit it and you get it done, then maybe there's another piece, and it gets bigger or not, whatever your availability allows and your capacity and your organization allows. But start with a specific ask. You've got to, you need something tangible to go, we need to work on this. So then when Patricia says, yeah, give me a call next week. I'm on vacation later this week. Give me a call next week and we'll work it out. Then when Tony sends an email that says, hey, remember when you said you could help me with this one student and their transportation cost? When do we have time to meet? Patricia goes, okay, we're working on transportation. This is what I've got available. Here's what we can do. Or if you leave it broad, it's really hard to make all of that work. So that's where you start. Some communication strategies. Learn the language of each department. For example, and I've had to learn some of these the hard way. Financial aid departments talk about eligibility. What are they eligible for? What can they do? What's allowed? Academic affairs often talks about credit hours. How do you get the credit hours that they need? Non-credit talks about outcomes for employers and for students. IBT, depending on the objective you selected, could talk about student support, could talk about bridges and ICAPs, could talk about dual credit, could talk about curriculum building, could talk about students with disabilities. So when you're working, when Patricia says, yes, I can do that, she may need to learn some of the language that Tony's talking about, because you may be using the same words, but they mean very different things. Short example, when I first started my master's program, I was getting a master's in teaching English teaching English to speakers of other languages. I know what I have my degree in. I just can't say it. I started teaching, I was told, and I had a teaching assistantship. I was told I was going to be teaching IEP reading. I had come out of the education program, a K-12 program. In my head, IEP was the individualized education plan. So students with special needs, so extra times on tests, all those kinds of parts and pieces. And in my head, I was thinking, no, I've got the wrong population. I'm supposed to be working with English language learners, not students with disabilities or learning issues. Well, hold on, what happened here? The IEP reading I was in was an intensive English program reading. So again, you've got to make sure you're speaking the same language. And in education, we use lots of acronyms. You got to make sure even your acronyms mean the same thing. So make sure the language that you're speaking is the same. Use data and success stories to demonstrate value. As I mentioned, share the number of certificates or credential completions. Share student success stories. And maybe that success story is small, but for the student, it is huge. They took their first class. They signed up for the class. They passed the class. They applied for a job. They got the job. Then they got a promotion. All of these things, sometimes we forget that those little wins are huge for the students, but we think, oh, well, that's not really a big story. We don't need to tell the story. Again, for IBT, we ask for student success stories at the end of the grant cycle or throughout the grant cycle, because IBT comes from legislative money, we can give them the data on the number of students we served, males and females and veterans and disabled and all of these different pieces. But really what's going to help them is when we can say, we were able to help X number get a job. We were able to help this student who had been incarcerated previously come out, learn a new skill, got a job, moved to a better area, and now their kids are enrolled and staying in school. Those success stories get the warm fuzzies a little better than numbers on a chart. And so that can work for your program as well, whether it's marketing to higher level administrators, convincing them to keep your program, it's helping get a staff member, whatever it is, use the data and the success stories to help sell your case. Schedule intentional touch points. So an example of this, so Brittany is now like, ooh, I saw the partnership that Anthony and Patricia had. I need to work with Patricia on some stuff. Maybe Brittany reaches out and says, Patricia, I really want to talk to you about some of the work that I've seen you're doing. Can we meet for coffee? Can I include something from that you're doing in a shared newsletter? Can we set up a monthly meeting to talk about those things? If you have an intentional touch point, just like the comment earlier that I made, oh yeah, we'll get in touch in the future. I'll call you. 6 months, a year, 2 years go by, and you've never made that contact. If you said something specific, then it's like, okay, I need to have this. The other piece that goes with that is we all know deadlines make us all kind of look a little closer at what we're doing. And so your quarterly report is due. Where are we at? We're in June. So this quarter ends, the quarter report will be due July 30th. So yes, you all could be working on your quarterly reports right now. You're not completely done, so you could add some more pieces later. You could start them on July 5th or July 10th. Most of you are going to start them on July 10th or 15th. You're going to finish them up on the 28th. You're going to look at them again on the 29th, and you're going to submit them on the 30th because you have a deadline and there's a time that you have to have it done. Where that's the point of this. If you schedule an intentional touch point, there's a reason to meet, there's a reason to pull the information together. You're going to be better prepared rather than just running into somebody in the hallway and go, oh yeah, I need to send you that success story. And by the time I get around the corner and I see 3 other people and talk to a student and I make it back to my office in an hour, your success story is gone from my brain. Where if we say, hey, I'm going to send out this newsletter on the 30th, so I need everything by the 20th. Now I can put on my calendar on the 19th, send Brittany the success story that she needs, send Brittany the advertising piece that she needs, send Brittany the student recruitment piece that she needs to go in the newsletter. Again, scheduling those specific pieces. Questions on any of this? All right. Is anybody doing any of these touch points already? Does anybody have like monthly meetings or quarterly meetings already set up with their internal partners? If so, what do you have already set up? Oh, you're a quiet group today. Or everybody left. Patricia, I scared off Patricia and Anthony and Matthew. They all ran away. Quarterly check-ins. Okay.
I can share.
Sure.
We don't necessarily do quarterly check-ins, but we're kind of regularly in talks with our financial aid. Our program is for individuals who are intellectually, cognitively, and developmentally delayed to have a post-secondary opportunity at the community college. And what we've seen a lot is that our financial aid office is constantly kind of working to support different entities across the campus. And so while we may not be regularly meeting with them, we're always kind of in a like touch point with them on, you know, if there are scholarships provided for our students or partnerships within the community that want to partner with our students. So that one is kind of always in the works. We're housed under student access and accommodation services. So we try very hard to make a like direct pathway if students are going from our program into credit-based courses. So that pathway really supports them in that full wraparound services type kind of engagement. And then the same with adult ed. So if they don't go into credit courses and they want to go into adult education, it really depends on the student. So it's not necessarily like a quarterly approach, but it is like a student by student approach. And we're all kind of in the same area. So it's an easy touch point when we need to just have that general conversation.
Good. And Ashley said similarly, they don't do regular check-ins, but they do as needed. They've got a contact, and that's great. So maybe consider scheduling even a semi-annual maybe not quarterly, maybe the quarterly is too often, but maybe once every 6 months or every year, pulling the group together that you do have and make sure that everybody knows what everybody's doing. And so everybody's in that same loop to go, oh, Corey's working on this. I really need to send a student over there. I didn't know they could do this small piece of it. So all of those. Yeah. Thank you, Ashley, for typing into the chat. So I'm glad you guys are using some internal pieces. That's great. Is anybody doing anything with data yet? Or is that still a piece that's needed and got to figure out how to do it? Okay, so you're doing a personal spreadsheet. Okay. And we know that IBT grant is tracked internally at places a variety of ways. Some of it is on a spreadsheet, some of it is on paper, some of it is in a data system that is specific to the organization, some of it is colleagues, so it varies. But good. Okay. Now, back into that Menti piece, back over to that slide deck we were looking at, not slide deck, where are your current partners? So who are two potential partners that you haven't connected with yet? Who did you hear? Who are somebody that was maybe mentioned either in the chat by me or Corey? Yep. That you need to possibly reach out to. Who, or maybe you've tried in the past, but now they've got a new staff member, because those also happen, Maybe Corey's been working with their financial aid department, and now they get a new financial aid department director. And you're like, okay, I have to go start a new relationship with this person because the old person left. So these aren't necessarily brand new departments, but they may be new people. Okay, Rainey said they plan on featuring success stories in the monthly student newsletter and on our future app. Very good. Do I need to? Oh, wait, I may need to go back. There's the link, and it should still be in the chat. It's the same one that we were on before with the code and everything, or you can get into the QR code. I actually can't get back. Let me go over. Tell me to wait for the percentage to change sides. Okay. Okay, well, Ashley, you can just be ahead of us on the next one. It's fine. Is there anyone that you're missing? Maybe you guys are just doing great partnership already and you've already got all of the people you need. So, I think, is this the, dun, 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 dun. Yes, so we're going to do the next slide. So, Ashley, you're caught up now. What is one activity you will do in the next month to engage? It says one of these partners, nobody had anything that they were obviously missing, but what is something you could do in the next month to engage one of your existing partners, to strengthen it? Yep. Ooh, creating a flow chart so you can reference who does what. That could be a great piece that I've not heard mentioned before, but it could be very helpful to know, who do I call for which piece? Back to the PowerPoint. So the partnerships that you've already got going. So we've talked maybe about how to start a conversation, how to get those moving, how to get those rolling. But sustaining and strengthening partners is also important. Building trust and consistency. So share the wins publicly. Like I said, recognize departments that contribute to the success. So like I mentioned with the CDL, If you're in the adult ed program, thank the CDL program for their work and help with everything you did. If you're in the CDL program, thank the adult ed program for helping you get your students to where they need to be successful to take the test. Make sure that everybody is aware. But that happens, that wins is not just a phone call and an email between the two of you. It's also making sure, like at a college, the deans know, or the vice presidents know, or the president knows. At a smaller, I say smaller, but like maybe a community-based organization, you're making sure the executive director is aware. You're making sure that the finance team knows that you're working together and sharing these things. Putting them in a newsletter. I think Ashley was the one that said, nope, it was Rennie. No, now I'm losing. Who said they were going to put a newsletter together? I'm looking back at the chat. Rennie said they were going to do success stories in a newsletter, and that goes out to students and that helps market. Thank you, Rennie. But share the wins publicly. Let people know the great things that are happening and how you're working together. Maintain clear communication and follow up. If you say, I'm going to call you next week, like with my example with Anthony and Patricia, if Anthony says, I'm going to set something up next week, set something up next week. It doesn't have to be the meeting is next week, but make sure you reach out next week that it happens. So just make sure that communication stays clear, the follow-up is clear, it happens, all those things. We've all worked with those people. They're like, oh, I'm going to call you. And you're like, yeah, okay, not going to happen. Because they've consistently proven that they have not made us a priority. And that's okay because they're busy with things, but it does have an impact on the line. Institutionalize collaboration. So you want to create shared processes. So if you can share MOUs, so Corey is working with her financial aid department. If she can share that model with advising, great. She can share that model with adult ed, fabulous. So share those processes, what's working. And you may need to tweak it a little bit, but you've already got a wheel created. You don't have to recreate the wheel with a whole new partner. Just take and use what you've already got going. Use some templates that are the same across, whether it's a referral form, shared calendars for meetings, whatever those kinds of things look like. Use grants or other dollars to formalize partnerships. Fortunately, I'm on this side of it. We all know that money makes things happen sometimes. And so if you can work with another department and say, I can put X amount of money into it, if you can put X amount of money in for this, you are covering a portion that reduces their budget, they're covering a portion that reduces your budget, and everybody seems happy. So I'm not telling you to rely on the almighty dollar, but we also are smart enough people to know that money talks sometimes. So use those grants and the dollars, whether it's the IBT grant or it's internal money or it's whatever grant you've got. Make sure that you're using those to help formalize those partnerships. And even with the IBT grant, if you remember when you wrote your application, we asked for partnerships and a partnership letter. Those partnership letters were supposed to include who the partner was and their role in the grant. So I'm going to pick on some other people. Stephanie and Laura agree to work together. Stephanie's writing the grant. She needs to have a letter from Laura that says we will do student recruitment, student enrollment, and testing. And while the other program is actually running the program, or Laura's writing it and she needs a letter from Stephanie that says we're going to provide an instructor, we're going to provide the curriculum, whatever it is, those points need listed out. So, and showing that in a grant that you are partnering scores on our side. When we're reading those applications and we can see that there are partners in there and that you've already figured out who's going to be doing which pieces, that makes us, I don't want to say it makes us happy, but it allows us to give you more points when we're scoring your application. One, because you follow the directions, but two, because you're able to stretch the money a little bit farther. And so you're working with your partners and you're doing these things. So that's all helpful. I'm trying, oh, I'm not in, that's what happened. Sustaining and strengthening, measure and share impact. Like we said, use metrics. Talk about the number of students, of shared students. Maybe you talk about the increased number of referrals. You talk about revenue from some joint initiatives. But you want to use those dollars because, like I said, with the legislator, yes, the warm fuzzies help. But if we have warm fuzzies with 10 students and we're supposed to be serving 10,000 students, that's not enough. The warm fuzzy is lovely, but the 10 out of 10,000 is not enough. So we also have to have the numbers that go with the warm fuzzy student success stories. So find whatever those numbers are. Again, like I said, shared students, increased referrals, additional classes, student completions, any of those numbers that you can put in a chart, make sure you use those and share them. Like I said, publicly, with the other department, with everyone's bosses and deans. We all have a boss, and all of our bosses like it when we make them look good. So if we're able to enroll more students and bring in more dollars, maybe we generate more revenue, everybody's happy. So make sure you're including that in the information you're sharing up the line. Report outcomes and institutional dashboards or grant reports. Again, when you're talking about the higher level, whether it's your organization, your institution, your business, whatever you want to call it, we all have to do reports. So if they can say we were able to enroll X number more students and generate X amount of more money, more revenue, that looks good in their report as well. So make sure you capture that and you do that and you're able to share that. Continuous improvement, maybe host quarterly partner roundtables. We kind of talked about setting a specific touch point. Somebody mentioned quarterly. Maybe you don't do it quarterly, but maybe you do. Maybe it's a 30-minute quarterly meeting. Where are we? Are you still the right person? Are you not the right person? Who should be at the table? Who's not? Who are we missing? How do we get all the right people at the table? And then another suggestion is rotate leadership to keep the momentum and inclusivity going. So if the group is Kathy, Stephanie, Laura, and Ashley, those four, maybe at this quarter, Laura's in charge of it. And the next quarter is Stephanie's in charge of it. And the next quarter, Kathy's in charge of it. So if you go to each different person's department, you can see what they're like and where they're at. And you get out of that same, oh, we're going to Ashley's again. We're going to Ashley's again. We're going to Ashley's again. Okay, go to Laura's. See what Laura's department looks like. See what they're doing. And so you keep that momentum going and inclusivity and everybody's involved. Now, we also know that sometimes there's individuals that don't want to really be involved. Those people will show their colors and maybe you don't go visit their departments, but let the others rotate through and everybody then gets a say. You're all at the table. You're all responsible for this. This isn't just Laura responsible for making sure everybody's moving forward. Laura may be responsible this quarter for it, but then she knows that next quarter is Stephanie's job, and then the next quarter is Kathy's job. And you can rotate through that and it doesn't all land on one person. All right, some existing partnerships. These, I looked at the FY25, so not this year's grants, but last year's grants in their quarter 4 and quarter 5 reports to see what they're doing internally with some partnerships. And these are what several of them I got from some of them. Students receive job referral and placement services. So maybe they're in class on one side, but then they get to go over to the job services side and get job referrals and placement with one of their internal partners. The pathway brochure is under review with marketing, providing the oversight. I'm not a marketing expert. I can tell you what needs to happen in the program, but how do you make it a great marketing piece and reach the right target audience? And is it better digital or paper copy? And how often do you do it? And when does it go out? And all I don't know. But they're working with the marketing division to get that done. That's a partnership. That's helping everybody move this forward. And a lot of marketing departments, if you just go to them and say, I need this built, they don't know what you need. But if you can walk in and say, I need these 4 things, I just don't know how to put it all together, you're giving them some focus and some guidance. They can build it and then you can tweak what needs tweaked. Typically, they like working with that second group better because you're giving them some guidance, not just here, throw paint at the wall and see what sticks. A simulations coordinator was finally hired and trained in the position. Simulation equipment training is underway with some classroom implementation. So again, this wasn't in their own place. This was in another division, and that person is in charge of all of the simulation pieces that they run. And so now they're able to work together with simulation equipment, simulation staff, and they're getting some of the class implementation done. Internal, not a huge partnership, but essential because now the students get to see some real life work that they're going to be doing that maybe they wouldn't be able to do previously. Participants are working to navigate admissions and financial aid / FAFSA completion. As we mentioned, navigating admissions and financial aid can be a little stressful, even for those of us who know how to do it. I have a college student right now, and there's days that I'm like, I don't understand why you can't make this work because it should just work. But so again, that's internal partnerships. They want to take every class of adult education students on a tour of their business and industry skill forge location to market that program. We didn't really talk about tours, but that's another partnership. I mean, it's internal because they're going to one of their, this is a college, so they're going to one of their other locations, but they're taking the adult ed students to that location. So they're not just marketing to the general public, they're pulling in students that are already on campus, that are already familiar with the location, already know those faces that we talked about earlier, familiar faces, over to this and go, hey, is this something you might want to do? Students completed, this is a long one, sorry. Students completed a minimum of 20 hours of hands-on engagement, applying skills in professional communication, task management, and workplace etiquette. And they did all of that with the College of Arts and Science, at the welcome desk, at the School of Extended Learning, in the alumni office, and the Center for Performing Arts. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 partnerships within that one little bubble that, again, maybe huge, maybe not huge, but those are some partnerships that are already ongoing. All right, my final thought. I found this quote and I was like, this is really cool. Collaboration is not about gluing together existing egos. It's about the idea that never existed until everyone entered the room. So taking what everybody's already got going, like I said, when you're already working in your silos and your own pathways is great. That's not collaboration. You have to bring everybody together and then they go, oh, what about this? What about this? Can we do this? Can we do that? Some of them is going to be a no, you can't do that. But some of it's going to be oh, that's an obvious, brilliant thing. We could do that. Easy takeaway. So, and then I was trying to find some group collaboration. So you've got your rowing team, but then you've also got your blueprint reading, construction. How are we going to make this all work together? So again, remember, collaboration is not forcing together what's already there. It's about getting everybody into the room and seeing what generates out of that. All right. There's my contact information. Most of you already have this, or I'm sure all of you already have this. All right. So questions, comments, thoughts? We are at 10 till, just about 10 till. Hopefully you found this helpful. Is there any questions that you've got? Figure out who you're missing at your table. Who are some people that maybe you could strengthen a partnership with? Maybe you're already working with them, but you're like, yeah, I did that 3 years ago. That didn't work out. Maybe that, like I said, maybe there's a new staff member and you need to go back to that department and see if that's something that you can explore further, bring back together, and be open to new ideas. That's the other piece of this. You can walk in knowing what you know and thinking you've got it, but think about what are some other ways? What are some other pieces? What are some missing pieces? And somebody may have the answer sitting in the room next to you on the other side of the wall that you've just never talked to them. Go find your missing piece. So there you go. There's your PD for today. Go find your internal partnerships. If you've got questions, you're welcome. Thank you all for playing along as I tried to do the Minty and use random names. Um, the next IBT meeting is July. I don't have that. 21st, I believe. It is an operational meeting. So Emma will be back for that. You'll get to hear her, not me so much. Just keep in mind. Thank you, Ashley, for confirming it's the 21st. Have a great day. I hope this was helpful.